This ordinary looking Hertfordshire village once had a royal palace so important that Edward III governed England from here during the Black Death. The first Duke of York was born here and his tomb is still inside the village church. So why did English kings choose Kings Langley? Let's go and find out. Right, so I've just parked up and I've arrived in Kings Langley. For anyone that doesn't know, it's a Hertfordshire village just south of Hemel Hempstead. It's quite close to the M25 in Watford, for anyone that knows what I mean. But honestly, first impression, it looks completely normal to me. Nothing immediately telling me that medieval kings once lived above this village. But I've got to go and see for myself, I think. That has to be the first clue. I think the Sacred's Head. This inn has been operating here since at least 1619, but even that is centuries younger than the royal palace that once stood above it. And it looks utterly remarkable. Just look at the decor of the place. You can see, just compared to the building next to it, it's miles apart, if you ask me. I love the way that you got the hatched roof going down. They probably kept this as original as it was all the way back then. It's quite strange, to be honest, that the pub survived while an entire royal palace disappeared. That, for me, is utterly remarkable. That's a great bit of English history just there. Without knowing any of the history, I would assume this was the oldest and most important building in the village. The bigger story is almost completely invisible, if you ask me. As nice as that is, I think the first proper piece of royal evidence is located in the church. So I'm gonna go and find out what that is and where it is, most importantly. Just off the high street in that direction, what you've got here is All Saints Church. And I know what you're thinking. This looks like a modest village church, but inside is the tomb of Edmund of Langley, the first Duke of York and a son of Edward III. For me, this is where the royal story becomes real. This is probably where Kings Langley originated their name from. As you can see just from the clock and the English flag just there, that's absolutely marvellous. You've got the one customary pigeon that seems to like these historic buildings. How does someone become so closely connected to a village that history remembers him as Edmund of Langley? Seriously. I think I would expect the founder of such an important royal title to be buried in, you know, one of those largest royal estates, Westminster, or at least a cathedral, not in a small parish church behind an ordinary high street. The church currently holds what survived. Now I'm going to walk up the road that once led directly towards the palace. So wish me luck. Just opposite, we've got this here. It's labelled as the Church House 1904. And again, it's got that same pattern as All Saints Church just behind me. So I'm presuming this must be something to do with the church. But as you can see, this looks utterly remarkable. I love when they keep the windows as original as possible, but you can see bits of it starting to chip away and stuff like that. But, really interesting. I'm really not sure or have any information about this building. So if anyone does know, any locals that are aware of what this building does, whether it's connected to the church just opposite, drop us a comment in the comments. The royal palace was not in the high street. It stood above the village, up in that direction, at the top of Langley Hill. And I'm up there. Well, I'm going to climb up there to see what it looks like. Honestly, even this short climb changes the relationship with the village. The royal household would have been above the everyday traffic and the buildings below. Core blimey, you could probably see why kings and those of noble alike would have lived up here. The houses are absolutely massive. And I don't know if you can see that on camera, but you can see all the way down and just in the Chiltern Hills beyond. Without a shadow of a doubt, it goes without saying, you're going to need a pretty penny to be able to afford one of these. I mean, I'm easily estimating these are what? 4, 5 bedrooms minimum? Absolutely massive. And if these are that big, I can only imagine what the palace would have looked like. Just come across this house and you can see that looks Tudor-like compared to its neighbour just there. They've got a lovely stone dog I'm gonna have to take a look at. It looks very regal if you ask me. Just there. I'm not gonna go any further because I don't want anyone to accuse me of being on their property, but that looks pretty amazing. Just in front of their front door. Awesome. Local history records that this right angle turn marks where the road once ran directly through the palace's main entrance, the court gate. I'm not seeing any ceremonial gateway now. It just looks like a bend into a residential road if you ask me. But I can't help but wondering how many people drive around that corner without realising they're following the approach to a royal palace. And clearly that pub knows what they're doing, coining from the popularity of this place, the old palace. So I must be in the right place. Honestly, arriving here in the 1300s would have felt completely different. Standing here now, I feel like an absolute nobody. But coming here back then, you would have felt like you were really important and on your way to better things. Oh, this is the public footpath I'm looking for. So, this public footpath is known as the Drift. Edward II granted the friars a right of way here so they could reach their land just beside the river. Honestly, this must be the best surviving clue so far. This is actually a route that people would have used during that royal period. And it's rather spooky. Oh, but I'm seeing someone just ahead of me. So clearly it's used by locals, I would imagine. Honestly, I can't help but wondering how this would have felt back then. Just standing right here. You probably wouldn't have been able to get in or close to the place. The palace itself was not an isolated house. It had a royal residence, gardens, kitchens, stables, parks, and the working landscape needed to support a court. And this is where it would have been. Just honest, looking down at the people just at the bottom of the hill. Utterly amazing. It's got one of the best views I could have imagined, and clearly they're growing things here. I'm not quite sure what that is. If any locals are aware, you know what to do. This is the frustrating part. I've reached the royal palace, but there's almost nothing visible to show that it existed. I think parts of this is an allotment, and I was just speaking to one of the trustees, and I believe she had said that the land or the priory just behind, I don't know if you can see that building just there, has since been sold, but I'm going to really have to use my imagination because at its heights, the palace had 3 courts, royal apartments, a chapel, a great kitchen, stables, gardens, and a huge wine cellar. It had heating, bathing facilities, and there are even accounts of a mention of a camel. Edward III governed from here during the Black Death, and Richard II held court and celebrated Christmas in this very spot. Honestly, if you ask me, that scale is almost impossible to reconcile with what I'm looking at now. This feels like a normal edge of a village, not a formal centre of royal government. So why did kings choose this place? From what I know, the story appears to begin with hunting. This was part of a heavily wooded royal landscape with deer parks stretching through this area towards Berkhamsted. It gave the royal family countryside, hunting and privacy while remaining within the reach of London. Once the manor and palace existed, it developed into a complete royal estate, and during the Black Death, being outside crowded London gave Edward III another reason to run the court from this very spot. At the beginning, Kings Langley looked like a normal Hertfordshire village with an unusually grand name, but the clues are still here. A prince's tomb in the parish's church, the hill that led to the palace, a medieval path, and the landscape of the former deer park. The kings came because this was a royal hunting landscape close enough to London to remain useful, but separate enough to become a private court and even a temporary centre of government. The palace has vanished, but it is the reason that it's still called Kings Langley. If you like videos like this, you know what to do. And if you want to come on the next journey, please do consider subscribing to the channel. And until next time, adios.